Hey, everybody, and welcome to Just Another Effing Podcast. I am your host with the most from the greatest city in the world, Boston, Massachusetts. It's the JFB, James from Boston.
And it's me, your Canadian hero, Canada Dry.
And we got a special
Danny Limelight.
We got a special guest, ladies and gentlemen, straight from the depths of the AEW. We have the legend, Danny Limelight. Welcome to the show.
Hey, everybody. I don't have a cool opening catchphrase like these two guys, but it's me, the radioactive Poppy, Danny Limelight. I'm so excited to be here on this podcast. Let's rock and roll. We are living in the limelight. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely, man.
Poppy, I like it.
All right, we're going to break with some news really quick. NWA made an announcement. They are going to have an all-women's pay-per-view. Thoughts on that, guys?
That's super awesome. No one else is doing it, so glad they're doing it.
Yeah,
I think it's great for women's wrestling. It's great for wrestling in general. NWA, they have some great talent. Thunder Rosa. Yeah. Most importantly, one of my favorites, Serena Deeb. She's one of the best wrestlers in the world. I seen they had Alex Gracia there lately, Camille. There's so many great talent out there, especially in the women's division these days. So a tournament like that, I think that's
we're friends with
awesome. I think it's awesome.
I think it's perfect. WWE did their women's evolution, and that was a great pay-per-view. But for NWA, which has a real huge cult following, it's an enormous way to put their ladies over and put them in the limelight once and for all.
Yeah, I love it, man. I think that that's great. I have a daughter, so I love the fact that she could turn on NWA now and see a women's tournament.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thunder Rosa has met her before, so it's awesome for her to be able to watch that, and see that and see these women that are actually in all the companies, AEW, WWE, that are putting on some awesome matches. So it's awesome.
Awesome. So there's rumors coming out from all the dirt sheets that the WWE is going to have a draft in August. I don't think it's going to?
I don't listen to dirt sheets. I don't read that stuff. But it's always exciting when companies do, cool things to mix it up for the fans. So, I haven't seen anything on it. I don't read dirt sheets, but I think that's pretty dope.
It's high time. It's been a couple years since they had their last draft.
I don't.
High time. Bring Roman Reigns back to Raw.
Yeah, I don't care. Right. Lost interest.
Staying with WWE, WWE stock price actually went up quite a bit, despite the rumors that they might be possibly sold to some kind of media conglomerate.
Well, that might be why it might be going up.
That could be why it's going up.
If NBC gets a hold of WWE, then it's going to help.
Get Vince out. The man is 75 years old. He still thinks it's 1980. Get him out.
Limelight have to be careful what he says here.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that stuff, man. That's out of my lane,
Yeah. And one more thing from WWE, and that is Eva Marie is debuting on Raw next week. Are we going to see wardrobe malfunctions and she's not going to wrestle? Is she going to actually get in the ring? Has she upped her game and now she's a legitimately decent wrestler? What are our expectations?
I hope so. I hope she can at least, do things.
Well, I'm sure she's been putting in the work. We just talked about how awesome it is women's wrestling with the NWA Women's Tournament. There are a lot of women out there grinding, putting in the work. So, I'm sure she did her work, and I'm happy for her. That's awesome.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd love to see her actually really do the work and put on a good show. And last but not least, the IWGP Heavyweight title is no longer vacant. New Japan Pro Wrestling crowned their newest champion, Shingo Takagi. He is now the new IWGP Heavyweight title, of course, with the Cody Rhodes belt.
The Cody Rhodes neck tattoo belt.
Yes, the Cody Rhodes neck tattoo belt.
I think that the IWGP Championship looks beautiful. Everybody, we know the nostalgia. We're gonna miss the old championship, but I think it's a championship. I think it looked good around Will Ospreay's waist, and now Shingo has it, and he's been killing it for the last mean, he's been killing it for a long time, but this last year I feel like was like a breakout year for him.
Oh yeah, it was a huge year for Shingo. Huge year for Shingo.
I love this match with Jeff Cobb, so this is awesome.
Yes.
Well, hopefully he has a nice long run as champion.
Yes. Congratulations.
All right, so we're gonna get to the meat of the reason why the three of us have convened together like hobbits searching for the Lord of the Ring. We have our special guest, Danny Limelight. Danny, welcome to the show, and it's awesome to have you. I am a huge fan. We share the same birthday, so we're brothers in arms. September 2nd, baby.
We share a birthday with Keanu Reeves then.
Heck yeah, Keanu Reeves. I forgot about that.
Yes, the trio champion.
So you're from Brooklyn, New York.
Yes.
I won't hold that against you, being from Boston. What was it like growing up in Brooklyn?
I wasn't going to comment on your hometown, but now since you want to talk about New York, we could talk about the Red Sox or the Celtics, or
Oh yeah,
we could clown sports teams. I was coming in here guns blazing. I was coming in here with my guns in my pockets.
So what was it like growing up in Brooklyn?
Man, it was. I'll tell you what, Brooklyn made me who I am. There's no place in the world like it. I don't know where I would rather. I just went to Puerto Rico for the first time in April, and I fell in love with the island, right? But I still am happier that I grew up in Brooklyn. If you just learn things about life at a very early age, and you learn to adapt and survive and stuff like that. And I felt like that created who I am, man. Like if I would have been born anywhere else, I feel like I would be a very different person, So
yeah,
I always rep my city, always rep my culture. I love who I am. And I love where I came from. And I never forget.
Are you living in LA now or no?
Oh yeah, I'm Hollywood now, baby.
They're pretty similar though in New York.
They are very similar. But if you look at my bed, like I have like a New York sign up there,
Yes.
So like I have like another one in my living room, like Times Square and stuff like that. Like I'm always representing New York City. But LA reminds me, Hollywood reminds me a little bit of it. I miss the food from New York, but I love this weather. Yeah, I love how beautiful the women are out here. I love it out here. I don't want to go nowhere else. I'm trying to be poppy in LA. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you don't miss those New York winters.
Oh, screw those New York.
I don't miss that. All the New York pigeons.
Oh no.
It's annoying. And the rats.
Or pizza rat.
Oh.
Rats looks big, looking like dinosaurs and stuff.
Yep.
Oh yeah, New York had a huge rat problem.
Yeah.
So, of course, you share your birth city with some great wrestlers, guys like Taz and Johnny Rods and the Brooklyn Brawler, and like, what's it like? I mean, did you get
Michael Jordan?
Did you get into those guys growing up?
I didn't find wrestling until 1997. And I'm gonna be real honest with you guys. Like, I didn't even know about independent wrestling or any other type of wrestling, but at the time was WWF until I started becoming an independent wrestler.
Yeah.
So like I only knew of Taz when he came to WWF. Like I didn't know, and it's not that I just wasn't educated on other wrestling. I was like a casual fan. I watched it because my dad would turn it on at night. And in fact, the first time I ever watched it was '97 Bad Blood, and
cool.
Kane came out, and that's what it drew me in immediately, But when Kane came out and he screwed the Undertaker, I got mad, turned the TV off, and my father said, "Bow!" He loved the Undertaker and shit. But I was just mad because Undertaker at the time, like I loved it. I loved the story, and I hated that Kane was, doing what Kane was doing, and like that's my first memory of wrestling. And so I didn't know about Taz, and I was too young for the Brooklyn Brawler, and so as I got older, and then when I started like actually wrestling and learning about wrestling and watching wrestling, I started seeing other things, stuff like that.
So your dad was kind of your injection point for professional wrestling then.
Yes. I would say my dad is obviously the reason. He's the one that got me to watch it. He took me to Madison Square Garden. I met a fake Macho Man who looked like the real Macho Man. I thought it was Macho Man, and my father like popped me and like made me take a picture with him, and I went years thinking that I had met Macho Man, only to when I look back at that picture, so this ain't Macho Man. What the fuck?
that is great.
Awesome. He did his thing. I remember I have a picture of me, and it's like I'm wearing a championship belt. I have a black leather vest on with like a little hat, like, and I have a lizard glued to my shoulder, and that's like my little Jake the Snake pet. It's like the little lizard, and I have a championship belt, and like that's like the first real picture of wrestling that they ever took of me, my mom, my dad. And I fell in love with it, and I think that like what kept me watching wrestling, I was like, The Rock was like the fucking man for me growing up. So his promos, the way he talked, all this, that was, and even to this day, The Rock's like the person I look up to when it comes to like everything that I do in life, whether it's wrestling, acting, all that. Like, it's The Rock. And then after The Rock left, I fell in love with Eddie Guerrero. Like that was my hero in wrestling. He was like the first real Latino superstar that I can remember that and rest in peace, Eddie. That's the GOAT for me. I like people watch me wrestle. You see, a lot of Eddie in the way I do things in the ring, and like, I want to give a shout out to Vicky Guerrero because I love you, Vicky. She's like one of the nicest women I've ever met in my life, and I never thought I would have had this connection that I have with this friendship, that I have, considering that I used to idolize, Eddie Guerrero and stuff like that.
It's almost surreal, right?
It's crazy, man.
So I read that you joined the Marines.
Yeah.
So what possessed you? Because first of all, thank you for your service to our country.
Yeah, thank you.
What drew you to the Marines over going Army or Navy or taking it easy and going Air Force or Coast Guard?
Well, if anybody like watched my interview with Paul White on the AEW Elevation Rising Star,
I watched that.
They saw that I told my story about that. But to recap it was I never wanted to be in the military. After I can't remember what grade it was. My teacher told me I couldn't be a wrestler, that it wasn't a real career.
Yeah,
that's what my teacher told me. And so I fell in love with baseball. So I was going to play shortstop for the Yankees. That was like my dream, And I got kicked out of 2 schools. So I had to do my senior year in the 3rd high school, and they already had their baseball team. So they wasn't about to bring me and the kid that's been kicked out of all these schools to be on their team. They was going to cut somebody who's been playing them for years for me. And so I was 17. I was in a new school. I didn't know nobody. And some kid that I had met, he told me he'd buy me a slice of pizza if I went with him to the recruiting station.
Wow.
He said he would get like points or whatever. So I love pizza, especially from New York. So I went with him, and I walked into this office, and there was a Marine Corps staff sergeant, he was a recruiter, and he looked me up and down. I had my pants sagging, my shirt, whatever. I probably had some other stuff like looking. I just looked different, I didn't look professional. And so he was like, "Nah, you can't be a Marine. Go see the Army recruiter." So I was like, okay. And I'm like walking to go see the Army recruiter, which I don't know why I even did that, because I never had intention of joining. But because this Marine staff sergeant, the way he presented himself, the way he carried himself, made me think that he ran shit.
Yeah.
I walked over there. And as I walk into this office, this Army soldier comes out, and I'm not trying to shit on any other branch, but the Marines are the best. That's just the bottom line. I don't, but the way this Army soldier presented himself, he had his hand in his pocket and he was smoking a cigarette. Yeah. And to me, there's nothing wrong with smoking cigarettes, even though I think you shouldn't smoke cigarettes. I've never inhaled a cigarette before, so I'm against cigarettes, but like, it was the fact that he looked less professional than the Marine staff sergeant. Yeah. And the fact that he told me that that's where I belonged. Like I wasn't good enough to be where he was at. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I seen this and I'm like, this is what he looks at. This is what he sees when he looks at me. Fuck, like no way. So I was a snot-nosed street rat kid when I was an asshole. My mom and dad would threaten me to like take me to go to boot camp. You remember like the Jerry Springer show and the Maury show when the drill sergeant it was threatening me with that shit like all the time. So yeah, it's kind of a funny story. I always joke with my parents now because it went full circle, because I walked back into the office and I told them I'm going to be a Marine. Do you even want to sign me up or not? And I had to go home that night because I was 17, so I couldn't enlist myself. Tell my parents, and I was like, "Joke's on you guys! Like I'm actually going to send myself." Yeah, the boot camp. And I didn't know how long I was going to do it. I didn't know what the Marine Corps was. I didn't know anything about the military. You know what I'm saying? Because I was never in my agenda. And I just remember like telling myself, I'm just gonna go do it and get out of New York and get out of home, get out of the streets. And my pops dropped me off at the office the day I was gonna go ship, and he was like, "I just want you to know they're taking my best friend." And like to me, I didn't know what that meant at the time, you know.
Yeah.
Like looking back at it now, after doing 10 years, like I was my father's right hand, you know, like I was his homie, and I was gone. And it's like he knew that I was gonna stay, that I was never coming back, you know.
Yeah.
And so I had a 4-year contract, active, 4-year reserve. You know, my MOS, my military occupational specialty, was 3043 supply administrations, right? So every Marine Corps works, every military branch, you get a job, but every Marine is a rifleman. So we have to go through combat training, we have to go qualify with rifles every year. So after my first 4 years, I said, you know, I fell in love with the Marine Corps. And at the time, like my daughter's mom, we had met and she got pregnant, and I was having my daughter, and I was so bad with my money when I was in the Marine Corps that I was living paycheck to paycheck. You know what I'm saying? And so like I never, you know, was smart. So I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a backup plan. I didn't go to school, you know. So like I re-enlisted for another 4 years.
Yeah.
It was always my goal, because I remember my drone instructors. I could name all of them. You know, Philip Iddens was the senior drone instructor. Alan Childs was like the head drone instructor. Michael Donnelly was like a kill hat, is what we called him, but he's like the one that works you to death. And then there was, you know, Sergeant Askew, Carlos Askew. And he was like the one that worked the shit out of you and taught you the most. Like he was the man. And I remember that the way that they broke me down and built me back up from a little street rat kid to who I ended up becoming. I was like, before I leave the military, I want to do this job. You know, and to be a drone instructor, you got to be at least a rank sergeant, and you got to be top 10% of the Marine Corps.
Wow.
So I busted my ass. I became the sergeant. I was a top 10% of the Marine Corps, and I went to go to be a drone instructor. And you have to go to drone instructor school, which is basically 13 more weeks of training, basically boot camp all over, but in a sense to train you to be able to teach the recruits. Yeah. Going through boot camp. And I graduated number 1 out of that class. I was awarded like all these awards and stuff like that. And I ended up making over 350 Marines as a drone instructor. And after I did that, then my time with the Marine Corps was done. And, you know, in the process of while I was in the Marine Corps, I reached to the level of staff sergeant, which is the E6. I was a first-degree Marine Corps martial arts instructor in the Marine Corps martial arts program. So not only did I get up to black belt, I became an instructor to teach the program to the Marines. Taught over 400 Marines the martial arts program, from belts from tan, gray, green, brown, and black.
That's awesome.
And then, you know, now I'm living my dream from a childhood as, you know, a wrestler. I'm an actor with SAG, and I'm a stuntman as well. I'm a writer, a producer of films. I just keep my hands everywhere, and I got a little girl who's 7 years old, and she's acting, and she's in commercials, and she's doing films. So life is good over here, Papi.
So, how did the wrestling career start?
Yeah, tell us your origin story.
Oh shit, we're going into comic. See, I can talk origin story. This is comic.
Yeah, right.
So basically, I was in Target. Every good story starts off with
every good story.
I was in Target with my daughter at the time. This is gonna like blow your minds. She was 4 months old, right? And we had her in a little chair sitting thingy in the cart. So me, her, and her mom wasn't with us at the time. I don't think. I think her mom was home. Can't remember that part. But I went through the Blu-ray aisle. At the time I was like really big on Blu-rays. I wanted to have a sick Blu-ray collection. You know, I had all of Denzel's movies because he's my favorite actor. And my daughter was like, she was way ahead with her motor skills. Mm-hmm. So she would like look at things and like she was so I don't understand how advanced this little girl was, but she knocked down some like Blu-rays. So I will pick them up because I'm not a turd that's gonna leave it on the floor. And one of them was The Rock's top 10 greatest matches, and I was like, it's almost destiny considering he was my favorite. Like this is crazy. So Rock's top 10 greatest matches. I'm like $10. Hell yeah! Like I'll relive wrestling. I hadn't watched wrestling. I hadn't watched wrestling since Eddie Guerrero had passed away. So this is like 2014. Yeah. But at least 10 years since I've watched the like program, and I still at the time didn't know about independent wrestling or anything else. Yeah. So I go home, I watch it. I put my daughter in her bopper. She's sitting in the bopper with a bottle, and I put the thing on, and me and my daughter are sitting there watching it. And my daughter's mom comes from the kitchen. She's like, "Why do you have my daughter watching wrestling?" And I looked at her, and I was like, why not? It's The Rock, you know? Like, she's like, she looked at it and she's like, is that Dwayne Johnson? So she she didn't know who The Rock was. So then I was like, yeah, you know, he was a wrestler before he was an actor. And she's like, I never really watched wrestling. I've never seen this. You know, I think my brother may have watched it, yada, yada. So I sit her down, we watch it, we have fun. I'm like, you know what? I think a cool date night would be to take her to a wrestling show.
Yeah.
I look online, and WWE was coming to San Diego the next week.
Oh, cool.
Literally the next week. So I got the tickets. We go to the Valley View Casino to go watch the WWE show. And while I'm there, I run into another Marine that I knew who was a wrestling fan, who was a younger rank than me. So he respected me and wanted to talk to me. And in the same process, he was training to be a wrestler at an independent company.
Oh, cool.
So he was like, Sergeant, I didn't know you was a wrestling fan. And I was like, bro, I haven't watched this in years. We had a little talk. He's like, I'm training to be a wrestler. And I laughed. I was like, fuck, like, what do you mean, dog? Like, you're a Marine. Like, what do you mean you're training to be? Like, it didn't make sense to me, you know?
Yeah.
He's like, no, I'm serious. You know, I'm training to be a wrestler. I'm training at XYZ school. I'm not going to mention that school's name. They don't get no love from me no more. So he said, I'm training here. Yeah. And I was like, all right, I'll check. You know, that's cool to know. I'll see what's up. You know, he said, you should come down. So I went home and I couldn't sleep that night. Yeah. My daughter's mom's like, she was like, just go. You know, she's like, but like, what I will credit to her is she actually paid for like the first 3 months of my wrestling training.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because at the time we was making a certain amount of money, and like I paid like all the bills and the main bills, and her money was like the money she got went to like savings or whatever.
Yeah.
So it was like she took it from her money, our money, whatever, the money, and she paid. She was okay. She paid for it. I always thank her for this shit, because who knows if I wasn't gonna pay for this shit myself. I didn't have it.
Yeah.
So she paid for the shit. I go show up. It's a little warehouse with a ring, and there's people training to be wrestlers. And I looked at it, and I was like, if they could do it, like I can do it. Because the people that were there, like looking at it, I could tell that only 1 or 2 of them were gonna be good. You know, I mean, I might sound like an asshole, but I was judging them because I was immature and young at the time. I was judging them based off appearance. They didn't look like they lifted weights, if they looked like they were overweight or too skinny, you know what I'm saying? Like, because I didn't know anything about the business. I didn't have the respect for the business at the time. Like, I was still a little.
Quick question here: how many of those people actually made it out of those?
Don't put me on that spot. because that right now, off the top of my head,
0.
A handful wrestled on the indies for a little bit.
Yeah.
But none of them went higher than the indies.
Yeah.
I got kicked out of the school like 9 months later or 6 months.
Oh, yeah.
because I took a booking in another city and won a match in another city.
Oh, so they didn't like that.
Yeah, I didn't know I was signed to a contract where they paid me enough money where I didn't have to wrestle on other indie companies. You know what I'm saying?
Really?
Yeah.
So where did you go from that?
I pulled the gun out for a second. I'm gonna put it back in my pocket. You know what I'm saying? But so I started training. I left there. He told me I'll never wrestle again. Now I'm gonna give a shout out to David Marquez.
Yeah.
Who owns United Wrestling. He's the man. That's Uncle Dave for me. He called me when nobody in California wanted to book me because the words of that promoter, and asked for my side of the story.
That's awesome.
I told them. And within like a month, I was like championship wrestling from Hollywood, wrestling on TV. My first time wrestling on TV. Ran with that company for a while. And then I took a break because I had to go be a drill instructor. This was like, so I started training to be a wrestler while I was still in the military. And then I went to go be a drill instructor. That was my first dream. I wanted to do it. Took 2 years off of wrestling. But I even as a drill instructor, like my other drill instructor friends, they knew that I was a wrestler. They had knew myself, so they would call me Limelight. They would try to make fun of me, and like, because at the time I didn't do anything big, you know, I hadn't even done extra work, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like I was wrestling for $20. You feel me? It was a joke to them, and like to me it wasn't, you know. And some of my recruits, like, they were like, when they got more comfortable towards the end, they would talk to me about wrestling, like, and ask if I knew this person or that person, you know. Like to me it was like I wanted to go back to it. I knew that once I was done with the drone instructor and I had time, I was gonna go back to wrestling. That was like my plan. But the only problem was I left the drill field, is what we call it, like 38 pounds. Yeah. Is when you're training recruits, you're 13 weeks straight, 7 days a week, 3 in the morning till like midnight if you're lucky. You know what I'm saying? So I'm dehydrated, I'm starving, you know, it's not a healthy lifestyle, especially for the training. And you never want to see the recruits eating. You never want the recruits to see you eating or drinking water. You want them to think you're a machine so that you can break them down and build them up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I was malnourished. So I had a lot of work to do when I came back to the Indies. Fortunately, again, David Marquez took me in right away. Didn't, you know, go make some towns, kid. No, it was like, come back, you know. And then I started wrestling on the Indies again. People started seeing me around more and more. You know, I met Rocky Romero. who would later on invite me out to the New Japan tryout, which would get me into New Japan. I met a lot of people. I met Scorpio Sky through David Marquez. I met, Peter Avalon. So many people. And in the SoCal scene alone, there's so much talent at all these major companies that came out of SoCal.
Yeah.
And so it all went full circle for me. From New Japan, when the pandemic hit, I was fortunate enough to luckily I did a tryout before that had happened. So I came to New Japan. Now I'm a main player in New Japan Strong. It's part of Team Filthy. Shout out to my team, Team Filthy, baby. And then, and then from there, then my name got some kind of traction. And that's when AEW thing happened. And I'm having a blast there as well. Things have been great.
Now, I remember watching you on Impact. How did you get connected with Impact?
David Marquez.
Marquez.
I think they were doing something together or whatever. I don't care about the backstage stuff. The office is not my concern. But they had something going on, and David Marquez got me on, and I freaking had a banger of a match. It was a 5-way for the X Division Championship, my debut with Ace Austin, Trey Miguel, Jake Christ, and Adrian Quest.
Yeah. And
in my opinion, a lot of people, I think that I stole the show that night, and I thought that Impact was going to sign me. Like I was still too young, immature, or cocky, but I thought that I was like, damn, this is going to happen for me, and I needed it to happen because at the time I was homeless.
Yeah.
I was engaged, and my ex-fiance left me and kicked me out of her place right before all that stuff had happened.
Oh wow!
So I was living in my car with my pit bull, and then I eventually got into this place that I live now.
Yeah.
So like that Impact match, if people go back and watch it, they'd see like I had longer hair because I didn't have money for a haircut, so I had like a weak comb over. Yeah. I was skinny. I weighed like 140 something pounds. Like. Maybe that's why I didn't get signed.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I look like a fucking starving child. I don't know. But everything happens for a reason. I love it. I have a lot of friends at Impact. I think Scott Gilmore is great. Don Callis is a mastermind. It's all love over here with that.
Yeah, but, my first match of yours that I saw was I don't remember who you tagged with, but it was Penta and Phoenix.
Yeah, it was me and Puma King.
Yeah,
a shithole box of a fucking thing that when me, Phoenix, Penta, and Puma King got there, we was like, how the hell are we gonna wrestle here?
Yeah,
like how are we gonna do anything here? But those guys are professionals. They're superstars, man. Phoenix and Penta when me, Phoenix, and Penta had that match.
Yeah,
we were already friends. Like we had
cool.
San Diego from Tijuana. When Conan used to bring me for the Crash and for AAA and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I already had a relationship with them for about 2 years by the time that match had happened. 2 or 3 years, actually.
Okay.
So, yeah, I met them in 2016. I think that was like 2019, that match.
Yeah, that match was 2019.
And Phoenix is just unbelievable. Like,
bro,
I haven't seen
those guys are my brothers now. Like, Phoenix, I'm actually going drinking with Phoenix. I don't know when this is going to air, but if this is live, I'm going drinking with Phoenix this weekend. You know what I'm saying? I'm wearing, look at Phoenix and Penta right here. The Mass Republic store. Go check them out, man. Those are my boys, mi manitos. I love y'all. And two of the best luchadors in the universe. And Ray Phoenix, you were talking about Ray Phoenix. I had a match with him on AEW Dark. One of my favorite matches ever. I think that was one of the first matches on AEW that really set me apart from like all the upcoming newer guys that were showing their faces on AEW.
Yeah.
But he's phenomenal athlete.
Awesome. So at what point in what was there a certain match that really told you that you made the right decision? Like, is there a certain turning point where you were like, I know this is the right thing for me to do?
Oof, I've never been asked that question. That's actually a really good question. I feel like there's levels.
Yeah.
Like, so, when I made my debut, it was at a Rumble, so like, but I remember that I came out with so much energy that the crowd didn't know who I was. They still reacted. I remember having some cool little spots in the Rumble. And I just remember that 2 shows later, I had my first singles match, and it was for the championship in the main event of the show, right? And then I was a heel. I became a heel. They wanted me to do heel stuff. And it just felt natural for me. Like to be in there, I felt so comfortable. I watch those matches very, very, very rarely now.
Yeah.
But But I watched it. I'm like, I was bad, like I sucked,
Yeah.
Well, I think it's always like that. But I just remember feeling like, man, like I could do this, And then I would say that the next time it happened was on TV at Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, where I cut like my first real live promo, like, and I've always felt like I could talk. Like I always felt like I had the gift of gab, the silver tongue, and I always felt like I had natural charisma. So the promo stuff was easy for me.
Yeah.
It felt like when I see myself talking, it was me. My partner at the time was Gino Rivera, and then we had Kathy Kelly. Shout out to Kathy Kelly. She was interviewing us, and like it just felt easy for me, Like I was like, oh yeah, I could do this too. Like I felt good, And so then the next time I felt that was when I came back and I wrestled for AAA, thanks to Conan, in front of 5,000 people in Mexico, and it was just the crowd. It was the crowd for me that night. It just made me feel like I want this, Obviously, the milestones, Impact,
Yeah.
Japan debut wrestling, TJP in my debut. Shout out to TJP, one of my mentors in the business. And then obviously AEW. Like, it comes a point where I feel like oh yeah, I could do this. Okay, I got the hang of this. You're rocking and rolling like, oh, and then you're like, I'm gonna be a fucking star one day.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel right now. I'm gonna be a star.
Awesome.
Can you tell us about Tony Khan? We're huge marks for Tony Khan.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about him?
I have nothing but amazing things to say about Tony Khan. I think he's a professional. I think he loves this business so much. He cares about his wrestlers. I feel like he wants the company to succeed, but only with the wrestlers succeeding. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Totally.
Like he's that kind of person. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like because the way he is as a human being is what's going to take AEW to as far as he wants it to go.
Yeah. Who gave you the call from AEW?
I got an email, from QT Marshall at the time.
Yeah.
But he had, Brian Cage had referenced me. So shout out to Brian Cage, Melissa Santos, baby, love you guys.
Brian Cage is such a I just keep hearing good things.
Yeah.
About Brian Cage all over the place.
He's great, man. He's a great dude. I think his match is actually the first match that really helped me stand out. It was my second singles match in AEW, and it was in front of a live crowd, like pre-show style before Dynamite, and literally like for the monster that he was supposed to be, because he's a monster, he's a machine for sure. He let me do so much in that match, and it all makes sense. It's a 5-minute match, and you go watch it on YouTube. Anybody's listening to this, like it's like a 5.5-minute match, but it's one of the, in my opinion, is one of the best matches I've ever had. But it's also like a really good 5-minute match.
Yeah, it's an excellent match.
Thank you. Oh, you saw it. Thank you.
Yeah, we both saw it.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you guys for watching. But I feel like that was one of the matches that really got me in the eyes of like the people that mattered at AEW.
I heard you had a match with Brian Cage at some sort of nightclub or something.
This Rogue Wrestling, and it was EDM's DJ's album release party.
Okay.
And it was before quarantine, and it was fucking insane. Like it was a sold out show, like bunch of people getting drunk, partying, music blasting, and you're wrestling as the music's blasting, and like people are popping for everything, like. And me and Brian Cage main event of the show. I was a last minute fill-in. I had knew Brian Cage and Melissa from San Diego independent scene before that. Obviously I seen them on Lucha Underground, and so we had some kind of like, oh, we know who we are, But the match, at the time, Brian was hurt, and I was like, fuck, he's hurt. I don't know what we're gonna be able to do. And he was a soldier. He was like, well, we just, we gonna make it happen. Like he, Mr. GMSI, get my shit in, like that's Brian Cage. And so we got our shitting in a nightclub, and it was like chair shots and fucking crazy spots. He powerbombed me through a table. Like it was fucking off the hook, and the crowd was insane. There was so many people there, and I was like, after this, we're turning the fuck up. I want some Hennessy. Like we lit, yada yada. It was a great time. We were the main event. We killed it. So that was like when me and Brian Cage first wrestled. But then obviously at AEW, we got to do it on a huge level, and it was actually my 4th match in the company. And on AEW Dark that week, it did the most numbers. It was like 35,000 views or something like that like that first week, me and Cage. And I was like,
That's all.
So let's talk about New Japan because you were on
"Team
Strong.
Frailty."
What was your experience like working with a Japanese company?
I still work with them.
Yeah.
So it's awesome. Yeah, it's great. Very different than AEW, very different than Impact. All companies are different.
Yeah.
But it's just like that warrior feeling, that honor you feel when you step into that cerulean blue. That's like nothing I've ever experienced before. And the competition there is so high. There's so much talent from me wrestling Kojima, you know what I'm saying? A legend who's 50-something years old.
Yeah.
So I think the youngest person that I wrestled there would have been, I think, Blake Christian in the Lions Break Crown tournament. So like crazy talented people. If you look at the bot, like the youngest person I named signed to NXT right now, right?
Yeah.
And then the oldest person I named, a legend in the business, and in New Japan. So it's awesome there, and I think that there's so much good things happening. I think New Japan Strong is amazing. You know what I'm saying? I feel like more people should be watching it, and I'm excited to see where it goes. And I'm super stoked to be part of Team Filthy. I'm the Filthy Poppy, and we did it on Fridays.
So you wrestled in Mexico, AAA, Strong style with New Japan. You wrestled American style. It's such a huge dichotomy and differences of styles. Which style is Danny Limelight? Which style do you enjoy wrestling the most?
Oh man, I'm a hybrid. I want to be able to wrestle whoever, however, wherever, whenever. I want to be able to do lucha with somebody that wants to do lucha like Ray Phoenix. I want to be able to do strong style with somebody like Konosuke Takeshita on AEW. Like that was that's my favorite match I've ever had, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, I think that was my best match I've ever had. It would be that one and the John Moxley match, probably and the Kenny Omega one.
Yeah,
those three are like my three favorite matches of all time.
Yeah, Kenny Omega, he's just so good.
the best wrestler in the universe.
I agree.
Somebody had asked me like Roman Reigns or Kenny Omega. I'm just gonna I just think I maybe because I don't have experience with Roman Reigns. I don't know, but just the way Kenny Omega is and the way he can also elevate other talent around him to compete at that level. The match that I had 2 matches with him, and I think both of them, he just helped me show the world on a bigger level what I can do.
Yeah, it must be awesome wrestling the champ.
Yeah,
he's just so unique to his style. Like I've never seen anyone wrestle the way he wrestles.
I mean, I look at it now. Like people I've wrestled at AEW. I wrestled the current AEW World Champion Kenny Omega twice.
Yeah,
I wrestled the Good Brothers.
Yeah.
So the former AEW World Champion John Moxley twice.
Yeah.
Matt Sydal twice. Ray Phoenix. Frankie Kazarian. Konosuke Takeshita from DDT, the ace of DDT. The Brian Cage. The matches that I've had. Jungle Boy, the first ever match on Elevation.
Yeah.
So like, if I think of who else I want to wrestle that I haven't wrestled that's at that level, I want to wrestle Pac.
Yeah.
That's like my number one right now. I wanna freaking have a one-on-one with Kenny Omega. Obviously I want the one-on-one. And like I want to wrestle Chris Jericho, and I want to wrestle.
I knew Jericho was going to be in there.
I wanna wrestle Chris Jericho, so like those are like the people that I want to have singles matches.
Yeah.
And in New Japan, I want to wrestle Fred Rosser one-on-one. I think Fred Rosser is doing amazing work.
Oh, he's doing awesome work.
He's doing the best work he's ever done before. You know what I'm saying? I want to wrestle Leo Rush. I want to wrestle Leo Rush for sure. So there's so much talent in so many companies, so different places that like when you hit those levels and you feel like you could do this and you're rocking and rolling and you're competing with the best of the best, that's where I feel like you belong. Yeah.
So where haven't you wrestled that you want to wrestle?
I want to wrestle everywhere. I don't close any doors. I leave all doors open for opportunities. There are plenty of places. Maybe someday I can wrestle at Ring of Honor. Maybe someday I can wrestle at WWE. I just want to wrestle everywhere. I just love wrestling. I want to do it all. I want to be able to wrestle the best of everywhere. I feel like if you ever feel like you made it and there's no more to learn, no more to grow, or I feel like you're setting yourself up for failure when you think like that. For me, I'm open for any and all opportunities. Shit, I would love to go to Japan and wrestle in Japan. Best of juniors, like that. That's like the type of goals that I have, and I feel like every door should remain open. You should never close your door on nobody because you never know.
I'd love to see you on a Tokyo Dome show. I think it would be bonkers.
I love Japan too. I lived in Japan for 2 years
Yeah.
before I knew that New Japan Wrestling was a thing, and I just love Japan.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge mark for Japanese wrestling. I'd love to see you like with Rev Pro or Progress out in England as well, and Europe.
That would be sick.
That would be awesome.
Let's do it. Somebody put that into the universe.
Yes, I'm gonna put those positive vibes out for you and get you on Rev Pro.
Everybody just tweet it because this is the positive vibes of 2021.
Well, I'm a former pastor, so I'm going to put a little prayer for you right now.
So honestly, COVID was a pain in the ass for everybody. How did you survive through COVID as an indie wrestler?
Man, rock bottom teaches you lessons mountaintops never will.
Yeah.
And like a year before COVID hit, I was homeless. Like I said, I was homeless, and I made the most money I ever made in my life in 2020.
Yeah.
In the time of pandemics. And I had separated my shoulder. It's still like weird.
Yeah.
But I separated it 1 month before 2020 started. So in December of 2019, I could have sat out for 6 months or whatever they told me if I got surgery or whatever the case. I don't know. I don't remember it. But I wrestled a month after I separated my shoulder because I couldn't stop because I had no other source of income because I had just got out of the military. Yeah. And I'm wrestling, I'm grinding, and COVID happens. Now how am I going to make money? I can't wrestle. Everything's shut down. Yeah. You know, and I'm over here. I was door dashing. You know what I'm saying? Like driving, trying to make my bread. You know, grinding. You know, like doing shit to fucking make it happen. Yeah. And I started writing scripts. You know, I was writing scripts and trying to produce my own short films, trying to, keep myself productive. I was working out at home workouts. And then I get the call from New Japan because I had fortunately did the New Japan tryout 1 month before I separated my shoulder when Rocky Romero put me out. And now I'm wrestling in New Japan, making some money, wrestling some of the best in the world, going into a feud with Rocky Romero, turning on Rocky Romero, starting to, joining Team Filthy, rocking and rolling, creating the buzz, making Danny Limelight relevant. People are asking me how I'm doing it because I'm not stopping. I'm not taking anything as an excuse. I'm getting my COVID test. I'm trying to quarantine the best I could. And then I'm wrestling. I'm working. I have a little daughter I got to provide for. You know what I'm saying? And then I get from AEW. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. And I'm making my way out there. I'm grinding, telling them whatever it takes, I'm going to do. And then it happens, and this is a blessing, but I do feel like when you're rock bottom, that's the lowest you get, It teaches you lessons about yourself, who you are, that when you're already up there, you'll never learn, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. When you're on top, you forget what it feels like to be down here.
Yeah. And I also think when you do the work, doors open for you somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you just keep going, and we here at F and Wrestling, we've only been around for 9 months, and doors are opening for us, and you're one of those doors. So thank you so much for coming.
Definitely, man. Thank you guys for having me, man. This was awesome.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk one really quick. I want to talk about your daughter. Obviously, she's a huge inspiration.
I always got my time for my daughter.
I heard she's a huge inspiration for you.
Yes. That's my little Khaleesi. Khaleesi, I love you 3000, baby. If you're watching this, she's the best. She's a little actress. She does commercials and short films. She actually, I wrote and produced a short film called Sunny, where she started at 6 years old as a possessed child. Possessed. And the awesome thing about it is we shot it all safely during quarantine, and we're currently pending 2 approvals from film festivals for the film.
So that is awesome.
Can you do us a quick favor?
Yeah.
You have a huge fan, a part of our administration here named Dallas. Can you just give him a shout out and tell him that you love him?
What's his name?
Dallas.
Dallas, mi gente. I love you, papi.
Thank you. That means a lot to him.
Yeah, he's a huge fan of yours. Well, man, I greatly appreciate it, man. It was absolutely amazing having you on. You have no idea. As soon as Canada Dry said, "Hey, we got Danny Limelight. You want to do a pod today?" I'm like, yeah. And then I just was like, oh my God, what am I going to ask him?
Dallas was actually the one who found it on your Twitter and hit me. So all props to Dallas. I just want to thank you.
On that note, yeah.
On
Has
that
Hulk
note,
Hogan
hey,
ever gone back to you?
So we do a little bit here. Hold on. No, Hulk Hogan hasn't gotten back to me. He stood me up again. So I win by forfeit. Canada Dry 3. Hulk Hogan 0.